All right, so I'm gonna need you to get out your chart. That's not what we're looking. I'm gonna need you to get out your chart. Okay, so if you don't have it out, pause it right now. The one that says x cubed, x2, and x, and has them all listed all the way up to 20. You know what I mean? So we're gonna look at that. Um, so pause the video and all right. I just found one to use because I don't have a copy of that one. So, we are just gonna look at your chart and figure out, just like before with square roots, up in the very top row. So in the top row that says x3, do you see an 8 anywhere? If you do, go all the way down past the x squared down to the x column. And what is that number? In this case, it should be 2 because I see an 8 here with a 2. Do the same thing for 343. Before the signs were on the outside of the roots, but for a cube root, they can be inside. So 343, hopefully you got 7. Since it says negative, we're gonna put -7. Um, you know it's a cube root because it's got this little teeny tiny 3 in front. So that's the way you can distinguish between a square root and a cube root, the tiny 3. Do the same thing with 64. So 64, you should have found as 4. Okay. Now again, we're going to do PEMDAS. So PEMDAS, remember this is the same thing as roots. I missed the M. PEMDAS. So remember, between these two things is implied multiplication. So figure out first what the cube root of 216 is. So the cube root of 216 is what you're looking for. And we know it's 6. So this is saying 2 times 6, which is 12. Can you try this one for me? So pause the video and try this one for me. So hopefully you've discovered that the cube root of 1, the cube root of -1 is -1, plus 10 is 9. Okay? So then we are going to do this next one. Let's have this next one. We have to simplify inside the parentheses first. So inside the parentheses, so the cube root of 27 is going to be 3. Then we put in parentheses 2 to the third minus 8. And then figure out what 3 to the third is. So go the other way, start down at the x column, look at 3, and go up to the x cubed column. And look, we're back at 27 minus 8. 27 minus 8 is 19. What you could notice is that when we take the cube root of something to the third power, just like with the squares, this cancels and we're just left with what's inside. And that's how we got that 27. So the opposite of cube rooting something is to cube it. So the opposite of a cube root is to cube it. So that's going to bring us down to solving an equation. So again, cube roots and cubes are opposites. They undo each other, which is the whole point when you're solving an equation. So let's solve this equation. I see b to the third power. We know the opposite of taking something to the third of cubing it. So the opposite of cubing it is to cube root it. So we're going to cube root each side. So those cancel out on the left. I'm just left with B. And now figure out what the cube root of 1,000 is. The cube root of 1,000 is 10. And because it's got that negative sign, it's negative 10. Now we have to solve an equation like before. So remember, we undo addition or subtraction first. So we always start with addition or subtraction. Then we undo multiplication, and then we undo our roots. Okay, so that's kind of your step process. So let's start solving this. So what's the opposite of subtracting 120? The opposite of subtracting 120 is to add 120 on both sides. Okay, so I'm left with this whole thing, 2a to the third. And then add those up, do 312 plus 120. 312 plus 120 in your calculator. And now I have multiplication implied between these. So the opposite of multiplication is to divide both sides by whatever's in front to get rid of that. So then I'm left with a to the third. Do 432 divided by 2. And you get what? 216. And now we do that last step of taking the cubed root. When you're writing cubed root, make sure you have that 3, because that's how you know the 3's cancel. And now we take the cube root of 216, which I think is 6. Yes. Which is 6. Okay. That's everything.